you can tell how much fun they have making it, and that makes it a poorer product, right?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Joe. Joining me, he is the Dale to my Tucker, Chris Morris.
Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well indeed. This week's movie, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, 2010.
Oft requested, never covered until now.
Until now. Paired with last week's movie, Shaun of the Dead, it makes up a horror comedy season.
Yes.
On the How to Survive podcast. A season which lasts a fortnight and ends in about 45 minutes' time.
Yes, exactly.
Is it a staple of the horror comedy genre?
I think so. We've had it requested a number of times, as we said. I think it's one of the, within the remit of horror comedies, it's definitely up the top in terms of how well it's received and reviewed. And I think it certainly is more towards the Shaun of the Dead end of the spectrum than Scary Movie.
Right, which is an outright parody. This is, I'd say, lovingly made.
Yep.
And lovingly watched as well by many people. It's available on Amazon Prime. That's where I watched it.
Yes.
I think that's where you watched it as well.
It is.
You have to pay to rent it, but you probably pick it up in any good DVD retailer.
Yes.
HMV gone bust yet?
I think Mike Ashley has bought it.
Great. So expect
HMV concessions coming to a Sports Direct near you.
Exactly.
That's a very UK-centric joke.
Yeah. Maybe
UK retail bankruptcy humour.
Yeah. Who's going to go for Debenhams next, mate?
Yeah.
He was sick in a fireplace. What a man.
Yeah.
Mike Ashley on the How to Survive podcast.
After this.
Oh, jeez. Whoa, Jesus.
Did you see the way those guys looked at us?
Who wants to go skinny dipping?
No.
We got your friend! Hillbillies.
They captured Allison.
Oh, it's some pancakes. You hate pancakes. I'm gonna make you something else.
What am I doing here?
Fell into the water. Dove in and rescued you.
We'll go find your friends. You should relax. Tucker and Dale are on the case.
What is this place?
It's just a cabin. It doesn't mean they're psycho killers.
Then why don't you go in there and talk to them?
All right. Maybe I will. I said maybe.
Dale, what are you doing?
I'm digging a crapper hole.
You mind if I help?
He's making her dig her own grave.
There's no rules out here. It's us against them.
No! Oh, good. Look, your friends are here.
And we need to recap the plot for those who haven't seen it recently, unlike us who watched it mere hours ago. Tucker and Dale, two lifelong friends and good-natured country folk, are on their way to visit Tucker's new vacation home, a run-down backwoods shack which they plan to fix up over the coming weekend. En route, they run into a group of university students who are heading for a camping trip in the woods near Tucker's new home. Owing to Tucker and Dale's appearance, the students mistake them for psychopathic hillbilly murderers and give them a wide berth. During a skinny-dipping misadventure, one of the students, and the object of Dale's nervous affection, Allison, falls into the lake, unseen by everyone except Tucker and Dale, who are fishing nearby. Her friends are roused just in time to see them dragging her body from the lake and fear the worst. The students immediately take matters in their own hands, but not before jumping to conclusions, and they begin planning an attack on Tucker's new home.
Yeah.
Allison, safe inside the home, quickly becomes close with kind-hearted Dale, gradually reciprocating his interest. The students begin to attack the house, and owing to a series of accidents, they are impaled in various ways, and one falls into a wood chipper, giving the surviving students the false impression that Tucker and Dale are murdering them.
Yeah. And not only murdering them, but like leaving sinister messages and like dismembering Allie and all sorts of things.
Very funny stuff. Meanwhile, Tucker forms the theory that the students are enacting some sort of suicide pact on his property and fears what the police will have to say about it. In short order, the sheriff arrives and is killed by a loose beam in the dilapidated shack, which falls on his head.
Yeah.
The fighting continues, and each student is killed in turn by their own or each other's clumsiness, leaving Tucker, Dale, and Allison to escape in Tucker's van, pursued by the sole surviving student, Chad, who is very much out for blood. Dale crashes the truck, and when he wakes, having been knocked out in the crash, he finds Tucker badly wounded and Allison missing. He tracks Allison to a nearby lumber processing plant where Chad has tied her to a circular saw about to be fed into it.
Yeah.
Chad reveals that his hatred of hillbillies comes from his parents being attacked by them before he was born, and his mother being tortured and raped before his father was killed. In front of his father in a sadistic way.
Mm-hmm.
Dale and Allison escape to an upstairs office where they find newspaper clippings revealing that Chad's father was in fact a hillbilly, the previous story being a lie to cover the fact that Chad was the son of a rapist. Chad falls from a window in a scuffle and dies. In a coda, Tucker is revealed to have lived, and Dale stops in to visit him on his way to an official date with Allison, and they go bowling and share a kiss. That is that. What did you make of Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
I thought it was quite good. It perhaps lacks the stylistic flourishes of Shaun of the Dead that we spoke about last week, which really, I think, elevate Shaun of the Dead above most other similar films.
Shaun of the Dead is an example of a great film, not just a great horror comedy.
Yeah. I think what Tucker and Dale has going for it is that there are some sweet characters and well-judged horror parody gags. Dale, in particular, is a sweetheart, isn't he? And it's hard not to feel for him. I think the film does a nice job of making the traditionally making the traditional unlikable protagonists of horror movies the unlikable villains instead, and not even really changing any of their personalities in the process.
Yeah.
And like the main villain is literally called Chad, which is quite funny in 2019. There are some very amusingly staged violent deaths, which, though lacking in any sort of like reality, are funny because it's just like someone flinging themselves into a wood chipper incredibly carelessly.
That one in particular.
Yeah. It's just because, obviously.
I don't often laugh out loud watching a film, but I was crying laughing at that.
Because it's not just that, it's like the protracted thing of Dale trying to Tucker trying to
pull him out, but it looks like he's feeding him in.
Yeah, and Tucker, the thing that really made me laugh was Tucker soaring through the bee's nest and then him panicking and it making him look like Leatherface.
Yeah,
because he's swinging the chainsaw around, but it's to try and get the bees off him. Exactly. So that's funny.
The movie's at its best when it is recreating those, like, I guess, tableaus of hillbilly horror.
Yeah, and but they are like parody, in a way that Shaun of the Dead didn't really parody zombie films.
Right, exactly. It pastiched them, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's the difference.
With all that said, I would say that the film came very close to jettisoning all the goodwill it had stored up with a very badly misjudged Kingsman-style final gag.
Well, I think I know what you're going to say here, and I think for me that comes earlier. So you make your point.
The issue that I have is with the basically the last moment of the film. During the last scene, Dale, with his own newfound confidence, having wooed Allie, tells another hillbilly at the bowling alley where they're having their first date to be confident, be himself, and just go talk to the pretty girl that he's admiring. And then later on in the scene, we see that he has beaten her unconscious and is in the process of dragging her away. And Dale and Allie shrug and keep kissing.
Do you think maybe you're falling victim to the same problem the teenagers in the movie did, which is to, like, it could be just a misunderstanding?
Right, yeah, it would be quite a misunderstanding indeed.
Right, so you think he took just be yourself, and he just unfortunate that his self is...
He's a hillbilly murderer, rapist.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
good.
that you're sort of playing devil's advocate, aren't
Yes,
you?
I
That
am,
is
right.
the joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
The joke is that he's beaten a girl unconscious and he's
Yeah.
going to drag her off and rape her.
Yeah, which isn't that funny, or funny at all. But I mean, for me, it comes earlier with the revelation that Chad is the product of a rape.
Yep. Which
and
is a Nightmare on Elm Street style
reveal.
reveal.
Like it somehow makes you villainous to have
been
like-
fathered by a villainous person.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that seems to come into effect in full force by the fact that he is himself fairly rapey. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
he forces himself on Ali a number of times,
Mhm.
and like not just be like he like licks her face. It's very he ties her up and licks her. Right? Come
Yeah.
on. He sexually assaults her,
Mhm.
and I suppose the movie's making out that it's because of his parentage that takes place.
Yeah, it's just not necessary in any way, is
Right.
it?
So this feels like, you know, someone could listen to this podcast and say like, oh, you're reading into it too much.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the problem.
Mhm.
Is that this is the sort of thing where it makes you think the wrong things, right, about a horror movie. We're no longer talking about the jokes in the comedy horror. We're
Yeah.
talking about the bum notes and the like inappropriateness of that kind of humor.
Yeah, and the I guess the idea with hillbilly horror is that they are from an isolated community where societal norms haven't reached there or are ignored, and often the implication is that lots of the hillbillies are product of repeated incest, which has sent them mad, or has resulted in some sort of genetic disposition towards violent behavior, which is what that is essentially alluding to, in that it's saying a person who is fathered by a hillbilly will be a hillbilly deep down. And in fact actually sort of undermines the film's core message, which is don't judge a book by its cover, by saying that actually, yeah, you should be wary of hillbillies because genetically they are predisposed to rape people.
Yep, that's the problem with that particular plot point.
Yeah. So like I said, good-natured, lots of fun.
It is though, mostly.
Yeah, it is.
And
It
I
is
think
quite charming.
It's like that wasn't put in there to be like cruel. I don't think. I think it's
No.
just a misstep when it doesn't bear.
It's a misjudgment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than a filmmaker deciding that they want to do a sort of like sexual violence screed in the middle
exactly.
of an otherwise, different film.
I think something that I did appreciate about it was how it makes the behaviour of the teenagers in the movie absolutely ridiculous when you view them as secondary characters.
Yeah.
So they're from like 1 second in, jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
taking matters into their own hands. And that kind of thing is absolutely rife in Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, anything with a slasher, anything with a hillbilly.
Yeah, it's
They're just-
always one or the other, isn't it? It's either that they don't read any of the signs,
Yeah.
or they read everything into every single one of the signs.
Exactly. They instantly know what's going on.
Yeah.
But you can forgive them normally in a slasher because you've seen so many slasher movies that you know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you can assume that they do as well.
Yeah.
But when you know what's really going on and it's just a misunderstanding,
Yeah.
it makes them look absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
So you've got like the best part for me is one of the girls tries to call for help.
Yeah.
And I think Chad just slaps the phone out of her hand and is like, that won't help us. And it's like basically absolutely nothing.
Yeah, exactly. He's because that's in the middle of the point where he's saying we've got to deal with this ourselves, like men or whatever, like
Yeah, like someone in a horror.
yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous, and they do fall into, like, although you don't really spend much time with them, they do fall into the classic teenage archetypes that you see in horror
But
movies.
like, even to the point that they're cast in the most like
Yes.
on the nose way.
Absolutely.
So you've got like the nerd
Chad.
guy,
Well, you got Chad the nerd. You've got the black guy,
Yeah.
the bimbo,
the black girl.
the black girl,
Yeah.
and is one sporty, like the running guy? Is he a
quite
bit
possibly,
sporty?
yeah.
Don't know, but yeah, it is very on the nose. Is there a stoner?
Yeah, it must be, right?
Because they talk about something to do with that in the first scene, I think, where you're
Yeah, like,
introduced.
all their lines are just like rubbish.
yeah,
Yeah, but like deliberately.
yes,
But I appreciated that because it recognises that fact in a way that other parodies and pastiches don't, I think.
yeah,
And just, like scary movie would make fun of that in a way that it just makes those things really intense.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the stoner character smoke a gigantic spliff, right? But you don't need that. All you got to do is say, like, no one acts like this in real life. Put them up against people who are realistic, like Tucker and Dale, and they're just like, it's like a bizarre comparison.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really clever.
Yes.
Do you think the gag about it all being a misunderstanding only really works when you've seen 195? How many is it now? 199.
Yeah. Including this one. Horror
movies with an undesirable amount of those focused on rapist hillbillies.
Yeah. I think, despite what I said earlier, I think horror hillbillies are possibly slightly distinct from rapist hillbillies, but I guess there's not that much of a distinction.
I was thinking of this. Do you know any
non-rape based hillbilly horrors? Well, I guess Friday the 13th is kind of a hillbilly horror, isn't it? Is anyone raped in Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I don't think. No, I don't know.
There's an unpleasant amount of like gendered violence in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like an intentionally unpleasant amount. But I mean, don't you think hillbilly horror has sort of entered the mainstream pop culture consciousness with things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Quite possibly, yeah. It was more niche than zombie horror, for example.
Yeah, that's true. I think the film probably does enough of those sort of obvious misunderstanding gags, where it's clearly spelled out what each side is thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we know the tableau of Leatherface waving the chainsaw around and moaning.
Yeah, but I mean, even despite that, like, the Tucker and Dale are rowing off with Ali, who's unconscious in their boat, and the kids are shouting, "Oh my God, they've kidnapped Ali!" Right. So that is an obvious misunderstanding joke. Yeah. Like, you don't need to have seen any films to understand that as a joke, because they are shouting what their two opposing sides are. Right.
Like, it's misunderstandings are as old as time.
Yeah. So I think there are enough of those to justify itself to a non-horror fan, but I think you'd certainly miss stuff. Like, a lot of the detailing around it is obvious, more obvious if you're a horror fan, like the cabin being very, killer styled.
Right, yeah.
It's Ed Gein, isn't it, who used to make furniture out of bones and all sorts of shit.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I think you would miss out on stuff, but I think you could probably just about get away with watching it even if you've never seen a hillbilly horror.
Quite possibly. But it is at its best when it is doing the tableau recreation, I think.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of fun to be had in the slapstick nature of it.
Yeah.
It's very silly in some of the violence.
Yeah. The bit that really made me laugh, just because of how absurd it is that anyone would ever do this, when they pull the lower half of
it drags over his face.
They pull the lower half of the dismembered body out of the wood chipper, and Dale falls over in the process, and Tucker just like obliviously drags
the entrails
over Dale. While dragging the body away, like
it goes over his face.
Yeah, like as disgustingly and stupidly as it could possibly be. Like that is absolutely slapstick stuff.
I agree. I think the movie for me got a little bit baggy as soon as it stopped being a hillbilly horror from the perspective of the hillbillies. Okay. That's kind of its like elevator pitch, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is all a big misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I think I'd have preferred it. If it played out like a normal hillbilly horror would, which is to say everyone dies except for one survivor who would, in Tucker and Dale, go away thinking that Tucker and Dale were monstrous killers.
Right.
But so imagine Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's a misunderstanding.
Right.
Yeah. I think that would be more satisfying than the hillbilly gets the girl.
I guess so, yeah. But then that is a more neat ending with the whole like message of don't judge a book by its cover.
It is, but
not that that's like a particularly interesting or developed message in the film, but that is the message, isn't it? If there is,
I think the funnier joke is there are no villains; they're just idiots.
Yeah.
But as soon as Chad becomes the villain, it's a much less interesting film.
Yeah, I think they could have done more with those misunderstanding gags rather than just outing one of the characters as a villain. Although that probably saves it from being a one joke film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's I think I said it to you in a text. It's essentially an SNL sketch made feature length.
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. And the thing is with that is that it would wear thin extremely quickly. So you probably do need, I think, a secondary storyline there.
Yeah. I mean, like, but it's a nice story. Like the guy, they just want to go to their vacation.
Yeah,
home.
exactly. It's so quaint and like innocent, isn't it? Yeah.
It's good. Are there any other horror genres that you could apply the misunderstanding horror to?
Zombies, mate.
Well,
Shaun of the Dead.
But zombies who aren't actually zombies.
Yeah, well, that would be quite funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, they're under the influence of something, or
you're convinced there's been a zombie outbreak, but people are just like becoming more like.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably do it with like an alien thing, but then I don't know how would you make a character who is somehow misunderstood or misinterpreted as being an alien without it being like grotesque, as in without having to resort to grotesquerie in the making of the film.
What do you mean by that?
So like if you were a cynical filmmaker and you wanted to make a film about how a group of like society thinks a person is an alien, like how would you make a human look like an alien? It would probably be through some sort of deformity, which would be offensive.
Well, you could have like the way I'd do it probably is to have someone mishear something on the radio.
Right.
Alien.
So like a War of the World, like when they broadcast War of the World,
that sort of thing.
and people started like hiding their basements.
Yeah, but the one guy does it, convinces his family aliens have invaded, and it spreads around the whole neighborhood. Eventually, everyone thinks. I mean,
that would be like a farce.
It's a Twilight
comedy,
episode, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to see like a psychological horror film where she thinks she's experiencing visions, like Black Swan, but everything is actually objectively happening.
That's fine.
But she thinks she's going mad, but she's not. She's like completely sane.
Right. Yeah. So it turns out like her husband does have a twin. Like,
like whatever it is.
But that's more like sad than.
Yeah, I guess so. But you could probably do that in a funny way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I came up with an idea which I just kept. When you just think about things, daydreaming. So there's a story I've come up with. These kids are convinced that their neighbour's a vampire, and they start testing it out, and various tests go wrong. Like they use holy water from the River Gordon, not the River Jordan, that kind of thing.
Right.
All tests remain inconclusive. Each chapter is a new test. They make him a garlic pie, but the garlic pie is accidentally given to the vicar instead.
Right.
Then he smells of garlic, and the whole congregation are angry.
Yeah.
Mate, there's a story in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Kids book, maybe.
I also thought of like an It Follows, like you could do some sort of twist on It Follows. There's a short on YouTube, which I think predates It Follows by some time, which is about a man who is chased by a ghoul who hits him with a teaspoon and just does it endlessly. And it starts out annoying and becomes more sinister by virtue of it just never stopping.
Right.
And wherever he goes, this ghoul is following him, just tapping him with the teaspoon. No one else can see it. And it just carries on. And the short is maybe like, it's something like 10 minutes long, but it is brilliant. Like like they really think about every possibility. It's like he goes to like Tibet to like find out the origins of the spoon monk and all this. Like it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's really funny.
Okay.
The problem with all of these, I think, is that, as you alluded to, you need like something else to stop it from being a one gag SNL sketch style movie, which in some ways is a credit to Tucker and Dale, I think, because they made a competent, enjoyable feature out of the idea.
That's right, yeah. It is well made, and it is exciting and very entertaining all the way through, but I'm sure you agree that it does become significantly less interesting after the main conceit of the film.
Yeah. The sketch is worn off.
Yeah, it's like if Jaws... Wait, let's say Alien is Jaws in space. It's like if they weren't in space for half of it and the alien wasn't there. You'd be like, this is boring.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So it's a hard one to survive, isn't it? Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because the people who die do so through their own clumsiness.
Yeah, well, that actually ties in perfectly to my survival idea, which is just be mindful of your surroundings. and I made a list of all the people who die as a result of clumsiness, as you put it. The girl who, she doesn't die, but this is just like misadventures that happen as a result of clumsiness. Ali slips from the rock, which obviously sets in motion most of the events of the film. The guy who impales himself on a branch while running, lack of spatial awareness. Guy who trips and impales himself on a spear. The girl who falls down the hill in the flashback.
Just falls over.
The girl who immolates herself with gasoline when she lights up a cigarette next to the giant
but she knows the game's
oil
up
cans.
at that point, isn't she?
I don't know. Who knows? Chad. When he falls from the barn. There is a running trend essentially of people having poor spatial awareness and then dying, or like causing themselves a mischief. You could also say when Dale hits Ali with the shovel,
she falls in the grave,
which is a classic, absolutely it's like Chaplin or
Laurel and Hardy.
Level
the whole movie
gag.
is very vaudeville, isn't it? Just like misunderstandings and slapstick.
But I think that all of those things play into the general motif of people having poor observational skills, which leads to the big misunderstanding of the film in the first place.
It's for the first time they're introduced is when Dale goes over and says, "Going camping."
Exactly. That is a very good joke
with a scythe.
Why? Doesn't matter. Yeah. How about you, Joe? Any survival ideas?
Yeah, mate. Quick one, really. I'll just bang through it. How to install a load-bearing column.
Okay. Yeah. For the cabin.
For the cabin, kills the sheriff, doesn't it?
Yeah, police officer. Yeah.
Use the screw-type post jack and post to lift or support the overhead weight. A 4x4 post can be used to support up to 7,000 pounds.
So, what does that mean in layman's terms? Like, let's set up the scenario. What's happening?
So you and me are there with our
load-bearing column,
with our screw jacks and post to lift. We got them, haven't we? Those things, and we're going to support the overhead weight with it.
You're showing me up by how well researched this survival idea is.
Well, no, mate. If you haven't got the screw type post jack and post to lift, I don't know what you expect out of me. A 4x4 post can be used to support up to 7,000 pounds. Larger loads require a 6x6 post for up to 11,000 pounds. Hire expert assistance for larger loads. So I think that's the nub of it, isn't it? Expert assistance is needed. There you go, mate. That's
great.
And the sheriff wouldn't have died.
Sometimes we get comments or reviews that say, like, the standard has slipped. They're not putting as much effort in as they used to.
Mate.
Okay,
do you know what a screw type jack post and post to lift is?
No, I don't. No, I can tell you something though. Another survival idea.
Go on.
This is for Ali, and it sort of ties into the spatial awareness thing, but it's much more specific.
Does it need a plumb bob?
You know when she goes to the lake and she gets up on the rock. Why?
Because it's away from the people. Her friends, she doesn't want to be with them because she almost got sexually assaulted.
No. She's undressing so that she can go swimming. Why does she get on top of the rock?
Because it is more private than... She wants to get away...
It's more private?
She wants to get away from Chad.
Fine.
Yeah.
Specifically, why does she get on top of the rock?
Because I think it emanates from the bushes. I think it's the route she took down the path.
So you think it's like a peninsula, like an earthen peninsula?
Yeah.
I don't believe you because she falls off it into the lake.
Yeah.
It's not like a shoreline, is it, where she falls off?
No, I suppose.
It's a rock that's sticking out of the lake that she climbs on top of and then starts getting undressed.
A pontoon. A rock pontoon.
A rock pontoon. Okay. Don't do that.
Yeah.
because the thing is as well that it's unlike a pontoon, which is flat and level.
Yeah.
It's like
Jagged and about 20 feet in the air.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
She could just step into the lake at ground level, and this whole sorry mess would have been avoided. That decision from her, which also, by the way, she gets startled when Tucker and Dale say something to one another.
I think Dale shouts Tucker's name because he's looking at her getting undressed.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, and she is startled, and obviously the implication is that she wasn't aware that she was being watched, and that's why she's been startled. If you don't want to be watched while you get undressed, then why climb on top of a rock?
Because she doesn't know they're there.
Yeah, but
she thinks she's in private.
no. Right. Basic tenets of privacy.
Her friends
right?
can't
if
see
you
her.
want to remain hidden, right, the worst possible thing that you can do is stand on top of the highest point in any.
I think her
in the
friends
area.
can't see her due to the angle, and that is
I think that's
private.
nonsense. Right? We agree that she is undressing to go swimming with them, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. So why does she want to hide undressing anyway when they're going to see her in her underwear?
I'm not her. I don't know.
What I think has happened is she's had her fight with Chad, and then she takes a circuitous route down to the pond where they all are, and she's like, oh, they're over on that next little cove bit.
Yeah.
I'll get into the lake and swim over there. And then for whatever reason she goes, in order to swim over there, I must climb on this rock.
Yeah.
Then she falls in, and the events of the film take place.
So-
Basically, what I'm saying is just enter bodies of water at ground level. That's a much safer way of doing it.
At water level, maybe.
At water level. There's how many people, like idiots and very unfortunate people, break their necks, break their backs, injure themselves permanently, die from jumping into or falling into shallow water from high ledges when they could have just climbed in.
But that's not why they do it, is it? They're jumping in because
For
it's
the
fun to
thrill.
jump in.
Yeah, well, best of luck to you.
This isn't how to have fun.
Do you know how they could have established that the water was a sufficient depth or not to perform such a stunt? By entering it at water level.
Fair enough. You make a good point. I can't really argue with you. I think you've dug yourself in and you're not going to be shifted. If only I had a screw-type post jack to lift you out of your entrenched position.
Yeah.
So, mate, that was Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Do you feel equipped to survive it now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. And listener, if you've got any thoughts, that was a listener recommendation. Many people have recommended that over the years.
Thank you to anyone. I hope we finally, nearly 4 years later, satisfied you by getting around to it.
And satisfaction is the name of the game. And if you would like to be satisfied by me and Chris, then you can email
Excuse me?
HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com and make a suggestion for a movie for us to cover. HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com is that email address. And that has been used by a number of people. The first email is from Neve, who helpfully tells me how to pronounce her name. Hello, Chris and Joe. Neve from Ireland here. I love your podcast and have been listening for around a year now. I love to listen to it when riding my horse or during my commute.
Okay. Our first equestrian listener,
Yeah.
to my knowledge.
Yeah. We should do a listener poll. Where do you like to listen? In the shower? Why not in the shower? In the car? Cycling? Or on your horse? Anyway, for suggestions, I think you should watch Pie Whack It. Now, often I'll say to people, tell me how to pronounce your name. Now I'm telling you, how did you pronounce the movie?
I have heard of Pie Whack It. I think we've had it recommended before.
The second film from the director of Backcountry, and in my opinion, a much scarier and better film. Also, watch Await Further Instructions, which has a very original atmosphere and tone. Thanks and keep up the good work. So there you go, 2 suggestions from Neve, which are Pie Whack It, from the director of Backcountry. I don't know anything about it, but we'll add it to the list anyway, because we did like Backcountry.
Yeah.
And await further instructions, which has been recommended by a few other people as well. Email here from Ben, friend of the show, Ben, in Australia, who I'm sure you recall had some dating issues earlier this year, or maybe last year. And we helped him out with our blind date section.
Yeah.
Now, he's given us an update.
Okay.
Hey, gentlemen. It's currently close to midnight, and I'm walking to get some snacks before heading home when I happened to put on the Ju-On episode and thought, oh, I've had a girlfriend for the last 8 weeks or so. I better let these guys know.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Now, the best about it was that it wasn't even via a dating app. You remember we were giving him Tinder advice before?
Yeah. Well, that's not the best bit about it, is it? Because surely it'd be better if it was.
Yeah, for us anyway.
Yeah.
He says that he just posted on the Melbourne City wrestling page if anyone wanted to meet before the show, and I met an amazing girl, and it couldn't be going better.
Oh, well, I'm very happy for you, Ben. Congratulations.
Yeah. Now, to turn it into a How to Survive theme, she does live an hour flight away, so how do I survive this?
Well, I was in a long-distance relationship with my current partner for a while.
Hour flight away?
More.
Yeah? How long for?
About 18 months all told, probably.
Then she was released.
Yeah. Day release initially, and then good behaviour.
Good.
Just, communicate and just be low maintenance about it, for goodness sake, because the worst thing you can do if you do, and also obviously don't just stay in a relationship that's not making you happy, but if you are happy with one another and you're low maintenance characters, then don't worry about what everyone else says about long distance relationships never work, etc., because it doesn't matter what other people think or anything like that.
There you go then. Well then, there's some advice for you, Ben, from a man who's been there. I was an hour drive away from my now wife for a while, and I think low maintenance is probably the way to go. So don't fucking worry about it, Ben, is the advice.
Yeah.
These things take care of themselves, and if she is an amazing girl, then congratulations on finding love after all that. And Ben finishes up, P.S. I think you should cover Fortress 2. You familiar with Fortress 2?
No.
Have you seen Fortress 1?
Fortress 1.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Charlie's emailed. Hey there. So you probably know my name is Charlie. Thanks. Just wanted to say that I'm from Mexico, just to let you know that you have international reach.
Wow.
I first heard about you when your Saw marathon came out, and after that, I saw, pun intended, your Final Destination marathon, and then I watched an episode that I can't remember right now. Well, thank you for the context, Charlie. I wanted to say that I'm a fan of your podcast, and the last one I listened to was Paranormal Activity. So much fun to hear you suffer through it. And I'm delighted that you guys are doing the Elm Street movies, and can't wait for you to get to the worst ones, which are getting closer as the weeks go by.
Great. Can't wait.
Keep on with the job, guys, and I hope you read this in the podcast so I get proof that you really laugh about this whole email. Ha 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 ha. There you go, Charlie. There's your laugh.
Thank you for the email, Charlie.
Quick one from Tao, who says, I just wanted to say I can't thank you enough for posting your podcast on YouTube. I started watching them a few days ago and it's just a breeze. Being a movie enthusiast, it's just perfect to have your videos in the background while working. You are helping me going on the right path after some family issues, so thank you. I wish you good luck for the rest of your journey. I hope the best for you. Thanks, Tao.
Thank you, Tao. That's very sweet, and we're glad that we've helped you in some small way through those difficulties. And of course, last week we talked about the YouTube podcasts and how there was a bit of a lull in them being uploaded, but obviously that backlog's now been cleared, Joe, after some fine work from yourself over the past week.
Listen, mate. Look, Tao's saying it's helping him on the right path, and it's not even all of them.
What if they run out though?
Look, that's fine. Great. Final email.
Yeah.
Is from EOIN. Ian, Ewan, Owen.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, this individual's name maybe doesn't matter because they said, hi, Joe and Alex. They did follow up with my sincerest apologies for referring to Chris as Alex. There's no proper explanation for that. Anyway, this person, Ewan, says, I think they're always Irish, aren't they? The names I can't get.
I just carry on reading it. Don't dig yourself into a hole.
I started listening to the pod after the Final Destination marathon popped up on YouTube. I've now binged dozens of episodes, and I wish I'd discovered it sooner. One film I'd recommend, which would be a great addition to the repertoire of Hitman movies, would be Martin McDonagh's In Bruges, a film I've seen several times and could quite possibly write a dissertation on. This thought occurred to me whilst listening in the Collateral podcast. So, Collateral, Hitman movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the first to suggest this, and I'd imagine it doesn't exactly follow on thematically from the last few films you've covered, but I think it's a film deserving of the kind of deep dive that you guys are so good at. Anyway, keep up the good work, etc., etc. And it helps make the daily commute far easier to stomach.
Well, that's very kind of you and a very nice email. Thank you. I love In Bruges. It's a magnificent film. Have you seen it?
I have, with you and your house. Your parents in conservatory. Who watched
right.
it.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, it's great. I really enjoy it. It wouldn't be, like the reason we haven't covered it is simply because we're predominantly a horror movie podcast, I guess. But then, we do cover a breadth of things and consider it on the list.
Yeah, it's a survival movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, in some ways it is, certainly. Now, Joe, you remember last week that it turns out that I'd been neglecting our Twitter DM inbox for a number of
excited.
years.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
I've picked out, 4...
How many years has it been?
I don't know, probably about 2 years.
2 years of unread messages.
Yeah, but...
is this going to be a joke where it's like, we haven't had any?
Well, one, we haven't had as many as you might think.
Right.
2... I've filtered out the crazies and the people asking us to fund their films and things like that.
Wait, what would you consider crazy?
Just like
gibberish.
Bots or whatever.
Right. Like, please do Big Ben or Bad Ben or whatever it's called.
Yeah. No. So, first email, which is, I think these go in... no, in fact, do you know what? I'll do it in reverse... most recent order. So
reverse chronological.
Yes. So this is the
most recent.
No.
So you're doing it in chronological order.
Doing it in chronological order. Thank you. First one here from Mark, who actually sent this twice because I never saw it or replied to it.
Right.
So apologies, Mark. Hey guys, huge fan here. Maybe not anymore. Just wanted to suggest one of my favourite cult movies, The Funhouse, by Toby Hooper. I'd love for you guys to cover this movie. Cheers. We've done a few Toby Hooper movies, haven't we?
Yeah. Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist.
Yeah, and Hills Have Eyes.
Is that him as well?
Yeah.
No, that's Wes Craven.
It is Wes Craven. You're right. Are those the only two Toby Hooper films we've covered? I think that is. Yeah. So, what do you reckon? A film called The Funhouse?
That's what I call my own house.
That is true,
the
yeah.
nickname for it.
Famously. Yeah.
So, fine.
Yeah,
cool. On the list.
All right, there you go, Mark. Funhouse is on the list at last. Then there was a message from a person whose Twitter name was just a decimal place.
Right.
And
a dot. Full stop, maybe?
I'll just call him Dot. Dot says, listen to you guys every day at work. My friend actually recommended you guys and I haven't stopped. Let me know the next movie you guys are working on so I can maybe give my input. I'd love to be put on the show. Well, congratulations, Dot. Here you are.
What's the date?
I don't know. Also, try Bedeviled. It's a horrible horror movie, but if I have to sit through it, I feel like the best movie review podcasters do as well. Lol.
There we are.
Thanks for your time. It just says, thanks for your time, guy.
Because he knows only one person monitors it.
Yes.
And that is...
And less than no one.
Yeah.
So there you go. Bedeviled on the list. And our next film, if you're listening, is Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
Brilliant.
Brilliant indeed. Crom emails or messages, DMs, to say, have you guys considered doing an episode on Attack the Block? Personally, I really enjoy that film and would love to see you cover it. Attack the Block, I think, has been requested before.
Joe Cornish made it, right?
He did, indeed. It's a great little film, I think. I've only seen it a couple of times. I'd be interested to rewatch it.
I've never seen it.
It's got some very cool creature design in it, and I won't say any more. So there you go. Attack the Block is on the list. And this finally, most recently, from Almond Milk, possibly in relation to, I think occasionally we discuss our politics or something.
Okay.
He says, you guys are hilarious and your content is fantastic. Even though you guys aren't in the US, yours political opinion are really inclusive and on point. Keep up the good work.
There you go. That's nice.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that, Almond Milk. I presume you're a vegan by that screen name, which will make Joe happy as well.
The way you were grinning and smirking about reading those, I thought they were going to be just like, you guys are shit.
No,
Fucking
we get very little hate mail, but if you'd like to send us some, howtosurviveshow@gmail.com is the email address, and @howtosurvivepod is the Twitter handle, which is now being monitored daily for direct messages. And don't forget, next week, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, episode 200. And yes, many things to discuss.
Because it's the 200th episode, man. That's a long time to do a podcast.
It is, yeah.
Weekly, without...
Get less for murder, don't you?
Couple of breaks, mate. Maybe a couple of missed episodes due to incompetence.
Mostly, yes.
So there you go, mate. See you next week.
See you next week.
For
In the meantime, if you're listening on
child-
Apple Podcasts
Oh, yeah.
or a podcatcher of your own discretion, please leave us a 5-star review, as that would really help us find more listeners.
And what we need is more listeners.
Yes.
Because that is good to have. Yeah, next week, 200 episodes. We'll have a special bonanza, so you don't miss it. Please.
Don't write checks you can't cash, Joe.
It's going to be a fucking bonanza. I'm going to watch the movie at 9 a.m. on the train to come here and record it at 10. And it's going to be a fucking hoot.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hoot. We're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Terrific episode. It's supposed to be Trump. It's not very good, is it?
Yeah. That you've Almond Milk's switching off now.
Because he loves Trump.
Yeah. No, because he hates Trump, obviously, presumably.
But then my pastiche of Trump.
Oh, I see.
would
No,
be
well,
so
it was
good.
so accurate. It was just like it might have triggered trauma in people who are listening who hate Trump. Why are we talking about Trump?
You love
See you
Trump,
next week.
Do you love Trump?
No, I do not.
Why?